Welcome to TMZ Live. Charles here.
And Babcocky.
Well, Diddy's trial got pretty explosive today. In fact, if he's not careful, Diddy could find himself kicked out of the courtroom. That is the warning he got from the judge this morning. I mean, it is stunning that the judge would say this, and we're going to get into what happened that prompted this. But consider this man is on trial could be in prison for the rest of his life. And the judge literally said, you may have to sit on the sidelines and you will not be able to be in the courtroom while that is happening.
Seems like a very drastic warning.
So what went down? The day started with Brianna Bonglin, the designer and friend of Cassie, who was testifying yesterday. She was being cross-examined by one of Diddy's attorneys.
Right, this is the woman that was allegedly held over the balcony, Charles.
Right, and they were getting into more of that, grilling her on that. And then they took a break. And once the jurors had been led out of the courtroom, the judge stopped Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's lead attorney, and said to him, you better talk to your client about his behavior.
It's a pretty remarkable moment that doesn't happen very often, where a court will admonish the defendant like this. It's also a pretty human moment, right? Diddy's been sitting there for 4 weeks hearing bad things said about him, and now he's got his defense counsel who's sort of sinking their teeth into a witness, and he's nodding along with it. I get it. Obviously,
so yeah, we should get into Jason, because we hadn't said what exactly the issue was. What the judge was taking issue with was Diddy looking at jurors, apparently, and giving his approval to what was being said, like nodding his approval.
It was on cross-examination, and his counsel was going in pretty hard at Brianna and I guess Diddy thought making some good points, and Diddy wanted to convey to the jury that he appreciated the questioning or appreciated the answers that the way the witness was responding. And so he started nodding along pretty vigorously, apparently.
Now, if he's nodding, that's fine, but you can't nod while looking at jurors.
What's
right?
the issue? What is the issue? What is the issue, though, Jason?
So the judge is basically saying, you're trying to convey information to the jury. You have a right to do that. You can get up on the witness stand. But otherwise, your job is to sit there and not do that, not convey information to the jury. Honestly, the most draconian sort of result here could be that the judge would say, you're virtually testifying, you're gonna waive your Fifth Amendment privileges here. That would go you'd have to wait for a long time to do that. But here, what the judge said is, if you continue to do that, continue to try to convey information to the jury, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick you out of the courtroom.
Which is stunning, because he has, a constitutional right to face his accusers. It's the jury, I guess, is the issue here. That
I think, Charles, I think that Diddy was excited that his defense attorney was picking apart the witness on the stand, caught her in possibly a lie or two. The witness had testified that the hanging over the ledge incident took place September 26, 2016, and Diddy's defense proved that he was in New York at the time, not Los Angeles, where that incident allegedly took place. So Diddy...
So you're right. I'm sure he was pretty happy with the way that was going, and probably smiling and, like the judge said, nodding. The issue is when you do it while you're staring down a juror, then you are conveying something. It does come down to, as Jason said, I guess sort of like testifying without testifying.
Right. And I'm sure, like for Diddy, he had to listen to Brianna the entire day before, Charles, go through all of this testimony where he was accused of roughing her up, of hanging her over the 17th floor balcony. So I imagine if Diddy is actually telling the truth here, that would be incredibly difficult to listen to. But again, can't do it.
Let's get to that about what is the truth about this, because they didn't necessarily, certainly the defense wanted to make it look like this never happened and she completely made it up. On redirect, the prosecutors said, can you explain why you got the date wrong? So they weren't conceding that it didn't happen. They're saying she may have gotten the date wrong.
About something that happened 9 years ago.
And her response was, look, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is what juries do, right? They're going to hear this information sort of, you know, and they're going to have to make a determination of what they believe and what they don't. I think it does make a lot of sense that you wouldn't remember something to the specific date that happened 9 years ago, although you're not hung off a balcony very often, so you would think that that would be something that would be crystallized in your mind, and also you would have worked out with prosecutors beforehand. It's odd that she got caught in this misrecollection of the specific date.
They're on a break as we're speaking right now, but the victim number two, who is testifying under the pseudonym Jane, is about to testify, and Diddy's going to have to really watch his behavior and his actions, his reactions to that testimony.
Hi, I'm Marie Dial here in Ireland, and Diddy needs to stop trying to interfere with the jury. I think today in the testimonies is probably one of the worst that we've had, and with him trying to get involved with the jury does not make him look any way good at all, and he really needs to stop.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the discussion with his attorneys during that break. All right, moving on now to the crypto torture case in New York City, where police have said, we have told you that police have said William Duplessis and John Waltz were holding Italian businessman and former friend of theirs, Michael Carturan, holding him against his will for nearly 3 weeks in their Soho townhouse. We already showed you this video of Carturan tied to a wheelchair and cooking crack, apparently, in an air fryer.
Right. If you thought it was weird, Charles, it's going to get weirder.
That seemed weird, especially considering you see his hands are free, and that called into question how captive was he.
Right. They're listening to music. There seems to be laughing in the room.
Yeah. Well, now we have some more images, which information that we've been told, and also metadata show these images, and that's Carturan. With the leash and collar around his neck. This is him in a bedroom. Was engaged with several women while he was there, and we know from these images that we've seen, had sex with at least one of them, and this all happened about 6 or 7 days into the alleged captivity.
Yeah, I think that's the key here because, look, when we see these photos and videos, we were told, and actually you can see physically, that he's smiling, he's laughing, he's having intercourse with women, and it doesn't seem like he's scared or, you know, in the videos, he's not saying, like, help me, like there's no signs of distress.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
But not to say that things didn't get weird, right? Because these videos and photos that we have are around May 11th, May 12th. And police say he was abducted and tortured between May 6th to May 23rd. We know that these guys lured Michael to their home.
That's what police say,
Yes, police say that. And, you know, in these photos and videos, it seems like it's like a frat house. Like at one point in the background, Simple Favor is playing. I mean, look, you could say that's maybe part of the torture, but they're like having a good time. They're
okay, didn't need the movie review, but
right?
But like he seems like he's having a good time, but you know, he was very much in distress when he ran out of that townhome at the end.
Certainly seemed like it, yeah.
Yeah, and was desperately trying to get help.
I think you asked the question,
That's
Charles.
him, by the way, that video is him sleeping on the couch.
On the couch, seemingly
with other people in the house
not
there.
restrained. Look, I think this could have started as something different and possibly turned into a situation where, yes, he was getting tortured, Charles, or he was in distress and they were not letting him leave, and you do what you've got to do to get through it and make it out alive.
Yeah,
right.
It is a much different picture these images are painting than from what we originally heard when this case
Nobody
broke.
imagined that.
This video, by the way, this is just interesting, especially after the air fryer video. I just want to play a little bit of this, of what his conversation was. And this is Carturan that you're seeing here, talking about a recipe for crack.
Absolutely water.
How much do we put per parts baking soda?
That's a great question for our research into.
So this is.
How much
I mean,
per baking
I'd
soda?
say 2 to 1, just off the top of my head.
Just off the top of my head. Happened, and here's the recipe.
2 for
but
1.
again, he's standing there talking very calmly to them, not restrained. Again, we can't see what's on the other side of the camera here. You don't know if someone is threatening him in some way.
Have a weapon pointed. You have no idea.
But he does not seem distressed. And again, we have reached out to prosecutors. They didn't want to comment. We've reached out to Duplessis and Waltz's attorneys. Nothing from them. Carturin is the guy we would love to talk to.
Yes.
Nobody knows where he is. We've been trying to contact him or an attorney, but it is a really bizarre picture of what was going on in that townhouse.
Juliana from Boca Raton. I think the story is all disgusting, and I think with this release of those videos and photos, it looks like it was consensual. I don't know. I think the defense is going to try to use this. I think they invited the Italian guy to New York for a party until all the kidnap stuff started and got out of control.
Clearly out of control.
Yes. Hard to say if he's under duress.
I mean, it looks out of control just from what we've seen,
Yes.
but where it gets to a violent moment, if it did, that remains to be seen. So we will stay on top of that one. When we come back, Luigi Mangione, his manifesto, which we heard about, that police had obtained this notebook in his backpack when they arrested him. Well, now we know what he had written in there, and it spells out word for word why he wanted to make this attack on a CEO of United Healthcare. I don't know how he comes back from this. We will get into the details of it when we come back. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, who was murdered in New York City, allegedly by Luigi Mangione, he had it coming. That's a quote from Luigi Mangione's manifesto that was in his backpack.
Right, when they arrested him.
When they arrested him. The details of that manifesto have now come out in documents filed by the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, as they prepare for his trial. It is stunning in the detail that, according to this manifesto, Luigi Mangione thought out this crime. Just a portion of it reads like this. So let's say you want to rebel against the deadly greed-fueled health insurance cartel. Do you bomb the HQ? No. Bombs equal terrorism. What do? You whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. It's targeted and precise and doesn't risk innocence. Most importantly, the point becomes self-evident. The point is made in the news headline, Insurance CEO Killed at Annual Investors Conference. It conveys a greedy bastard that had it coming.
Wow.
That,
I don't know how that doesn't, like, end of any defense, Charles. That's it.
Obviously, he has a defense team, and they were aware of this manifesto.
They would like to get this thrown out, but does that happen? That's the question.
Does that happen? And if it doesn't get thrown out, how in the world? When you read that, it seems like this should be the shortest trial in history.
Right.
But we know that's not how it's going to play out. So what is the strategy if you're prosecutors and if you are Luigi Mangione's defense? Joining us right now to talk about this is someone who knows both sides of the coin here. Katie Traskky is a former federal prosecutor. She's also now a criminal defense attorney, and she is joining us once again. Katie, welcome back to TMZ Live.
Thanks for having me.
So when you saw this, the details in this manifesto, if you're Luigi's defense, and you know, obviously they had knowledge of this before, how do you possibly combat this in court?
Well, there's a few things that the defense is going to do with this, and it's not all bad for the defense, actually. I think they can kind of spin it. There's obviously no question that Luigi Mangione shot and killed the CEO. That's not in dispute. The bigger question is the elevated charges that he's facing, specifically the terrorism charges in both the state and federal cases. And one of the things that's actually very interesting is that the terrorism charge in New York has very specific things that need to be proven in order to accomplish that for a conviction. And on the defense side, they're going to say that by Luigi's own words, he was specifically trying to not endanger other people. He was specifically targeting only this one person. I know that's not very mitigating, but in the scheme of what they need to show that it's a lesser offense than what he's charged with. And traditionally, the terrorism enhancement of the first-degree murder charge is used for what we would traditionally think of as terrorism, and the New York courts and the appellate courts have actually narrowly interpreted that charge. So the way that he's charged with terrorism is actually very novel, and it's risky for the prosecution, because if he is convicted of terrorism for targeting this one individual, then the case could potentially get overturned altogether. So certainly there is some openings for the defense here, and that's not to say anything about the idea that this could have been the result of an unlawful search and seizure. They could try to challenge it on a Fourth Amendment ground. But ultimately, it lays out, on the other hand, very lengthy premeditation and planning, which is significantly damning for him and helpful to the prosecution, and really helpful for the death penalty that they're seeking in the federal case.
Katie, what does this do to Luigi's defense? Does this box them in? Does it not allow them to argue certain aspects that they might have been able to argue before we seemingly had the entire crime sort of laid out right in front of us? What does this do to his defense now?
Like there was talk that perhaps there would be an insanity plea or insanity defense.
Right. Is that out the window now?
Well, an insanity defense is a completely different analysis, but you're right that it plays into whether somebody can appreciate the wrongfulness of what they're doing. And so the idea that he was thinking about this so thoroughly and for such a long period of time really rebuts any idea that this was the result of some sort of insanity, either in the moment or for standing trial. The length of the planning and the specific plot that he had and the way he lays it out makes it clear that he was trying to send a message. The bigger question is, does that satisfy the actual law that says that the act has to be undertaken to coerce or intimidate a civilian population? And whether that qualifies under the law, it's kind of a technical thing, and it's never been tested before. So I think they still have a fighting chance in terms of the enhanced charges, but clearly he's going to be convicted, I believe, of something, assuming that evidence doesn't get tossed out for other technical reasons.
Yeah, Katie, you know, one of the reasons they wanted, or the main reason they want, that his defense wants this thrown out, is they believe that the manifesto was an illegal search and seizure because he had not been read his rights when they took it from him. Even if they were successful in keeping that out of the trial, the fact of the matter is it's now out there, right? And so now when you go to get a jury, you know, we always talk about this, that the judge is going to say you have to ignore all these things, and when they pick the jurors, they say you can only base your decision on what's presented in court.
Right.
But they will have most likely seen and read this at this point. It makes it much more difficult to get an impartial jury now, doesn't it?
Well, I think in any high-profile case, getting a jury can be difficult. In the Diddy case, it was actually much quicker than I would have thought. But they'll have to go through that process to find people that have not necessarily been involved in this. Not everybody has followed the case very closely and has looked at all the court filings. But these filings were submitted in response to the defense's own motion to dismiss this case. So the prosecution obviously had to lay it out there. And on top of that, the idea that the jury will be tainted, the prosecution makes the point that the defense has been the one largely trying this case in front of the press and in the court of public opinion. And I think that that is a very valid point, that the prejudice to the jury pool and the lengthy nature of any jury selection is not the fault of the government, certainly. So eventually they'll get a jury. There are people out there that don't follow this stuff very closely, and it may take much longer than usual, but that's to be expected.
Right. So if you're Luigi's defense, do you start thinking about a plea deal?
Well, I think that it really depends on how much they think they might win on some of their other motions that are pending before the court, and also what the terms of such a deal would be. I mean, maybe they'd be interested in taking the death penalty off the table, but unless and until there's no other options, I would say he's going to fight this as much as he possibly can. And there are ways on the defense side, of course, that somebody could be factually guilty of something, but the case falls apart because ultimately the burden is on the prosecution to prove everything beyond a reasonable doubt. There are many things that happen. People call them technicalities, but the reality is it's constitutional-based protections that we have. And if the prosecution fails in some respect and they lose evidence that's very vital, the defense's side can become very, very strong, and you never know what might happen. So I don't know what the posture is right now specifically, but it's always something to consider whether there's an alternate disposition that might be favorable or you want to just fight it.
All right.
Wow.
Well, we will see how his team proceeds after this, but the words of that manifesto were really jarring, I think, for the general public to read. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your insight on this. We will be in touch. I'm sure we'll be talking as we get closer to this trial.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Wow.
It is stunning, but there are things that they can do. And
Yeah.
she's right about the terrorism thing because, I mean, he's right there.
I don't want to hurt anybody else.
Right. All right. We are going to take a break. When we come back, going to be joined by a man who's on the front lines of the homeless crisis here in LA. But his focus is on the dogs that have been forced to live on Skid Row. He'll be here to tell us why it has been a struggle to get politicians on board with his cause.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
Justin Timberlake made Portland kids' dream come true by joining a bike bus ride. And they always listen to Justin Timberlake.
Cry me a river when they fall. Yeah, right.
It's TMZ.
Well, the unhoused crisis here in LA, really in several cities around the country, has just reached horrific level. And we've talked about it for years here in LA. There are parts of LA, if you come here as a tourist, that you think you're going to see one thing, and you end up seeing these really heartbreaking scenes. That is an ongoing battle. There is an organization, though, that is focused on one particular part of that battle, and that is the dogs that are being forced to live in places like Skid Row in downtown LA. Starts With One Today is an organization that is trying to rescue these animals. And this number is shocking to me. In some places, the percentage of homeless people who have dogs, 25%.
Wow.
And obviously, they are struggling just to care for themselves, the dogs.
Anecdotally, Charles, as you're driving, as you see just the horrible conditions, and yeah, many times you do see animals.
Yeah, and it is really heartbreaking. So Joey Tuio is working with that organization, Starts With One Today, and he is joining us now to talk about their efforts and why it has been difficult to get, politicians and municipalities on board with this. Joey, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thank you so much. Even though I've been doing this for a while, just seeing those videos gets me so angry. And we have been fighting for these dogs for years and to deaf ears. So, the conversation is, should homeless people have animals? And of course, yes, that's not even a conversation. It's really just when people try to monetize the dogs, whether it's breeding, whether it's dog fighting, everything in between. We've rescued dogs that were being used to test fentanyl. We rescued dogs that this was the mom's third litter. Puppies. I mean, the list goes on and on.
I'd imagine, Joey, the problem, and this we've heard for years. Look, most of the people who end up in areas like Skid Row, obviously they didn't want to be there, and I'd imagine that part of your battle is in trying to rescue the dogs from their owners who still want to keep the dog with them despite the fact they clearly can't take care of them.
Well, Skid Row is a little different. Like, there's people on Skid Row that have been there for 10 plus years. It's not people who had something bad that happened suddenly and they find themselves homeless. These are people that have been there for sometimes even generations, and are people that come across the border who have no place else to go. So, but there's also, what people don't know is that there's also people using Skid Row as a place, because there's no law and order, to do what they want. Underground fighting, dog breeding. You go down certain areas and there's Escalades, there's Teslas, and because they're doing their business there. So it's a joint effort between some of the unhoused individuals, but also people that have a lot of money. They're doing things nefariously there. So, and the police are aware of it. We've told them many times. We see them drive by dogs that are openly being used for breeding, being hit, being abused, and they don't do anything. And we just had a meeting recently where somebody said that they don't do anything because it's insensitive to the people.
Wow. Joey, this probably relates to what you just said, but you look at these images and it's so heartbreaking. Why have you had trouble getting politicians on board? This seems like a cause that everybody would be behind.
1,000%. And I feel like it's interesting. Actually, the other day, I went to 7-Eleven to get a whole bunch of water for the people and the dogs on Skid Row. And I told the clerk what I was using them for. And he was like, there's dogs on Skid Row. So I just feel like a lot of people don't know, but I also think the politicians definitely do know. We've done petitions, we talked on City Hall, and they don't do anything because they don't want to be insensitive to the people. We've been told many times that they don't do any enforcement. They don't do any kind of consequences because they don't want to hurt the feelings of the people there. And of course, it's not everybody there, but there's a lot of people there that deserve consequences, and it just needs a couple of people to feel the punishment, and I think it'll make an effect. But so far, there's been no consequences.
So, Joey, what are you guys doing to try and, obviously, this seems like something you need to get the word out to the people, and if politicians aren't going to help, then maybe it's a grassroots effort. Yeah. Anything that you have planned in that vein?
Yeah. By the way, as you're looking at the pictures, it's not even just dogs. There's goats tied up. I mean, it's so insane that this has been going on for so long. But we are doing a protest on Sunday at 11 a.m. on Skid Row. Perfect timing. So I hope everybody comes. Now, if anybody does come, please, or for anybody who comes, please, we're going to be nice. We're going to be gracious. There's not going to be anything. We're going to be very peaceful. So just come, because we have to raise awareness. I don't think there's been a protest on Skid Row for this. So we have to, because I am tired of picking up dogs in my car that die on the way to the vet because they were so scarred, abused, gaping wounds. I'm over it.
All right. Well, Joey, we thank you, and your organization starts with one today. Thank you for the work you're doing, and we wish you the best with the protest this weekend.
Thank you so much for raising awareness. We can't do this without awareness, so thank you so much.
Thanks, Joey.
Wow.
Yeah, that's tough. Tough to see those images.
It is really, really tough. And what he said is that, in particular, because I was thinking that these are, people who are unhoused and they have their pets with them, but if they're using them in dogfighting and everything, that's just off. God.
It's despicable.
All right. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, the gloves are off. President Trump and Elon Musk's divorce is now an incredibly nasty one. You thought the battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni was bad?
Right.
Yeah.
This is like Cardi B and Offset.
We'll tell you what Elon is saying and what President Trump said that really set him off. Welcome back to TMZ Live. We make it a habit to celebrate when celebrities manage to break up, and they do it calmly, and it's amicable, and there's no mudslinging.
Yeah.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk is not one of those situations. In fact, Donald Trump and Elon Musk's divorce seems to be reaching like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie levels, because the gloves have fully come off. Yesterday when we talked about this, Elon had said some challenging words, I think, at the
he
very
talked
least.
More about the bill, though, nothing personal.
He didn't get personal about President Trump. He said, I don't like this spending bill, and the Republicans should, rewrite it.
Yes.
That was all he said.
Yeah.
Well, today, President Trump had something to say about Elon Musk, and it set off an all-out war.
Elon endorsed me very strongly. He actually went up and campaigned for me. I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway. I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot. People leave my administration, and they love us. And then at some point they miss it so badly, and some of them embrace it, and some of them actually become hostile. I don't know what it is. It's sort of Trump derangement syndrome, I guess they call it.
TDS.
He did not just say Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, it's a thing.
All right, look, I don't know whether or not Elon, as he put it, knew all about everything that was in this bill.
Yeah, Elon says no, by the way.
He did not know that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why he would know, because that wasn't part of his realm of what he was doing in the administration. But there's one thing that Trump was right about there, and I don't know if he had a crystal ball. He said, I don't know, maybe he's going to come after me next. Yeah, he did, because this is, now, Elon didn't go on camera, but he started posting on X in a wild way. He said, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House, and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate.
Right.
Such ingratitude. I mean, if you're Elon Musk, you did spend hundreds of millions of dollars
more than anybody else
to support not just President Trump, but other Republican candidates.
Again, Donald Trump won all 7 swing states. He won Pennsylvania, won these states pretty handily. So I don't know if it's true. It's a question we just don't know. Might be true, might not be.
Might be true. Well, Donald Trump saw what Elon Musk posted, and then he went to his platform. It's like X versus Truth Social. Elon was, quote, wearing thin. I asked him to leave. See, hold on a second. When Elon was leaving, he said this was always the plan. He has a limited number of days.
I believe there is a rule, Charles. There is
exactly.
There is a rule.
Can only be there, 130
days, I think it is.
Right, and that's the way President Trump said, this is not anything bad. This is the rule. He's leaving. Now it's, I asked him to leave? Okay, sure. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do. And he just went crazy. Wow, and then he said, the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. So is President Trump suggesting that Elon, as the head of Doge, didn't make cuts that might have had a negative impact on his company? Is he saying that there was a, maybe like, what's the phrase? Conflict of interest? That everybody was screaming the second that he started Doge
what's your, I'm trying to follow.
Well,
what is your point?
My issue is that President Trump is acting like he is made some revelation here.
He's rewriting him.
When he didn't, it's not any revelation. You're talking about a problem that everyone said was the issue when you put Elon Musk in charge of this department.
Right. All right. Well, maybe he sees it your way finally now. So give him credit, Charles.
We were all speculating, like, these are two huge personalities. At what point is there going to be a falling out, if there will be? And I think the people who said that there would be a falling out are feeling particularly vindicated by this whole thing. I feel like it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
When there's a disagreement, they're going to take to social media and they're going to start, fighting like kids do.
You've got two guys who do not
playground.
back down.
Can we go back to that? Not the last Truth Social, the second to last one. Yeah, I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted. Do we have the video of President Trump playing car salesman on the front?
When a lot of people on the left were firebombing his dealership, yes.
Right.
And I think that Donald Trump would say, hey, I did this for Elon, one of the things that I helped him. Yeah.
How much did it help him, by the way? Have you seen the...
Well, no, today's Tesla stock is collapsing, but...
just the sale, never mind the stock, I'm just talking about the sales of the cars.
I don't know. I mean, people, who wants to drive a car that puts a target on you?
I'm glad that President Trump...
One of the things that I want to know is last Friday, when they were having this whole breakup, Trump said, I'm going to give Elon this gold key, and I only give this to very special people. Is Trump going to ask for that gold key?
No, but Cam, the lock's been changed.
Yeah, he just changed the locks, that's all.
Hi, it's Mason, and I don't know about y'all, but I am giddy about the amount of drama we're about to get. It's going to beat anything on Bravo and Love Island. I mean, this was a whirlwind romance. I'm sure there was some love bombing going on, and Elon is heartbroken, and he's lashing out. Secret Service are going to start seeing him drive by the White House to see if there are other billionaires parked in the driveway. I mean, it's
Is that Bezos' car?
Is that Bezos in there? You know what? Is he talking to Bezos now?
With all of this, I would not be shocked if they somehow made up in the future. Do I think it's likely?
I mean,
Probably
Elon's it would be, if Elon backs down now after he has drawn this line in the sand and said, if they don't rewrite this bill, I'm gonna make sure that I primary all of it's not gonna
work out for him. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
All right, when we come back, there are some big updates in the Diddy trial as Jane, victim number 2, begins her testimony. Gonna hear what she is saying about their relationship when we come back. The next witness in the Diddy trial is a woman who's testifying under the pseudonym Jane. We know that she is a former girlfriend of his, and right away, when she took the stand, the prosecutors started getting into her connection to freak-offs, much the way Cassie talked about it now Jane is getting into that as well.
That's right. We're basically seeing kind of a pattern that's been demonstrated with Diddy and his romantic relationships. It starts off with romances, love bombing, escalates into kind of trips out to the Caribbean, allegedly pushing drug use on Jane in this particular case. She's prepared to accept that he's not going to be monogamous, but she's kind of committing to him. After kind of a brief breakup, they basically are back together in their relationship, and she's actually with him status-wise when he's arrested last September. She's also going into details about the freak-off. It's about the first time that they allegedly got together with a freak-off. They had been sort of discussing in bed, talking about the fantasy of this kind of setup. The next thing she knows, she goes to the bathroom and she comes out and Diddy's saying he's actually on the phone after telling her he can make this happen. Essentially, it seems like they're setting it up for that particular night, much to her surprise.
So she didn't know, this was not something she knew about from hearing, either communicating with Cassie, or this was all new to her, she's saying, the first time he brought it up?
She's saying that they were watching pornography together and they were discussing fantasies in sort of like a third hand, kind of like, oh, this would be cool if we did this. At least that's how she felt that they were talking about it. And then she went to the bathroom and came back, and he was sort of already setting this thing up, according to her testimony.
My name is Chloe. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I think in general, it sounds like P. Diddy continues with his issue with consent, allegedly, in my opinion. And millionaires and billionaires can know that you can find excitement in life other than intimidating and threatening and having lack of consent for women. You could open an animal shelter or help with humanitarian aid efforts or do anything other than traumatize women.
Right. That is certainly a point that has been made during this trial. Whether or not anybody's hearing it.
Yeah, that's the question.
We'll see. All right. It is that time of week. Your favorite time. You know him. Most of you love him. Tim is here with his rejects. What do you got, Tim?
So, a lot of kiteboarding videos that we see, they're kind of from afar. You don't get a real sense of how high they actually go. And so check this out. This is pretty cool. So there's a professional kiteboarder. There's a point of view, and you can see actually how high in the air he gets, up to 98 feet above the water before he comes down and lands. So I don't know if you want to go kiteboarding yourself.
That's not the guy I'm going to go with.
No, thanks.
I mean, I'd like to try it, but not with him. No.
Nonetheless, it's pretty high. So, all right. So I'm about to show you something that probably hasn't happened maybe ever before, but check this out. It's pretty cool. College softball game. A piece spikes up into the air from the pitcher, and the ball actually hits the dirt while it's flying through the air.
I just want to be clear about this, Tim. You're showing us a ball hitting dirt.
Yeah, I mean...
No, but Tim, don't let him do that to you. That could get in the batter's eye and strike three.
A lot of things can happen there. So.
Call Guinness. He's like, it's never happened before. Okay.
All right, so PSA, when you're loading up the back of your car or trunk, make sure there is clearance before you shut the door. So this guy's loading up luggage here. He's closing the trunk there, and the clearance hits the back of and he shatters the back window there. So, and look, he's like, oh man, nothing he can do. He is at fault. Nobody to blame, and he's just sitting there like, oh, what did I do?
The best is when it breaks more as he's staring at it.
He's just staring at it. So
I don't want to say I'm disappointed someone wasn't hurt there, but
we thought,
a little anticlimactic.
Well, you get mad when I show people getting hurt.
I know, it was just a little anticlimactic. That's all. All right.
I'll work on it for next week.
All right.
We want injuries, Tim.
All right, when we come back, I think we just entered the nuclear phase of the Trump
You know when I said, Charles, that I would be surprised if they got back together? I want to retract that.
It's not going to happen. You will not believe. What Elon Musk just fired is tantamount to a nuclear missile. Trump and Musk are it's beyond a feud now, because what Elon Musk just said, there's no way that Trump is ever going to say, all right, we can patch this up.
Yeah, I think it's unrepairable.
We told you earlier that, that President Trump had talked about Elon Musk in the White House today and said that you know, I don't know why he went crazy, and maybe it's because I'm taking away his EV mandate. Elon Musk just responded with what, like I said, is nuclear war. He said, time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's now bad as it gets.
That claim, we should say Elon Musk is making that claim. We have no idea if that's true.
Right. I mean, look, Donald Trump and Epstein knew each other.
We know
that's
that they
not
knew each other, and
debatable.
everyone's seen the video that they hung out.
Right.
But for Elon Musk to make that allegation, which, again, we must stress, we have no idea if it is true. It is just something he is firing off in the middle of.
Right. I think, Charles, everything before that, they could have come back from it. Yesterday it was about the bill. Today it got personal, but it still could have been patched up. Phone call. They seen out together, and I think they could have moved past it. But how is he ever seen with Elon Musk again in a friendly way after Elon Musk does that? It's not possible.
Some things you can't take back.
Hi, this is Emily from Jensen Beach, Florida. I think this is wild. Why is Trump interacting with Elon Musk this way? I mean, he accused him of the Epstein files. I don't think they should probably ever speak again. But I'm kind of excited to see this feud happening.
Look, I'm in that group that said this was going to end badly, but I didn't think it would end this badly. That's next level. What else you guys want to talk about?
This is Jess. I'm calling from Vegas, and I'll be talking about the Diddy trial. What's unfolding in this trial is shocking, but what's equally disturbing is what's happening inside the courtroom. Diddy reportedly nodding and interacting with the jury. It's just bad optics, and it can be seen as an attempt to intimidate. So the judge's warning to remove him from the courtroom sounds completely justified.
Yeah, it would be, I don't know if I'd say it's unprecedented, but I can't recall a trial where that happened, where the defendant could not sit there during the trial.
It's a drastic step if it were to happen.
If it were to happen, it would be extremely drastic. All right, one more.
Hey, it's India coming to you from Tampa. And look, when it comes to Luigi, it is not difficult at all to empathize with his disgust for this very predatory insurance industry. But taking a life is never justified. And when we come down to it, none of our premiums have changed. None of the deductibles have changed. So what really was the point of this?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, excellent point to raise there, because nothing's changed.
No.
All right, when we come back, the Beckham family feud. Is there a chance for a reunion between brother and dad and mom? Well, this might be the only time that a breakup is good news. We'll explain. The Beckhams have got to be, some of them might be happy about this and others might be upset, but there's been a breakup in the family. Romeo Beckham has broken up with his girlfriend, Kim Turnbull. Why is this interesting? Why is this important? That relationship was at the center of Romeo's feud, or rather Brooklyn Beckham's feud with Romeo.
Right.
Brooklyn and his wife, Nicola, did not like Kim Turnbull at all for a bunch of reasons we can't get into here. But that's why they broke off from first Romeo and then also from David and Victoria.
Right.
Okay, now everybody can patch things up.
Right.
We're told that is still a long ways off. A lot of people involved feel like there's too much damage done.
Right.
But
there's hard feelings there still.
I would think that David and Victoria hope is that first Romeo and Brooklyn can patch things up, and then that means the whole family can
get past everything, get back together.
We will see how that turns out. All right, that is, boy, it has been a drama-filled day.
I'm tired.
We will see you tomorrow.